In this edition of FSW Conversations, we are talking to Michaela Leitz, a celebrated fashion stylist and advocate for body inclusivity, known for her work redefining traditional beauty standards. With a decade of experience, she has become a leading voice for plus-size representation, collaborating with brands and clients to create empowering, authentic style narratives. Passionate about systemic change, Michaela continues to push for a more equitable and inclusive future in fashion. Michaela, thank you so much for joining us today. Just to start, I would love for you to tell us about your journey into fashion. What inspired you to become a stylist, and how did you develop your unique approach to fashion?
Absolutely, Jessica. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm really excited to talk about my passion, which is size inclusivity in fashion. And starting off with with my intro, with my first question. So, how did I start? So, to be honest with you, when I was a teenager, it used to be a size 0. So, I was very skinny because it was the 2000s and there were Paris Hilton and Kate Moss all over the media. And I had the feeling I have to be the same way as these kind of women. And I was later down the road, when I was like 20 years old, I became very plus size. So from a size 0 up to a 3XL over like 2 or 3 years. And I suddenly realized, oh my gosh, there's like literally nothing to wear and to buy out there, especially if you're younger and you want hip and trendy kind of clothing. There was literally nothing for me. And I have to change this. I can't live this way. And there are millions of other women who have to live the same kind of way that I do. So this has to be changed. What I did then was literally just a little bit sharing on Instagram. It was like 2016 on Instagram, my own journey and the kind of clothing that I am wearing now. And women were very much inspired by this. I got so many messages and comments. And I knew from that time that I am not the only consumer that is living this kind of life and has these kind of struggles with the fashion industry, that I have to change this. So down the road, I was studying fashion styling and image consulting to really learn about body shapes and colors and how to style and to be more knowledgeable about fashion in a deeper kind of way. I started styling, and then also the pandemic broke out. So what do you do as a stylist when the pandemic is breaking out? You cannot go anywhere. I learned how to do virtual styling, which was saving me, but it actually gave me such a great opportunity to go really like worldwide, literally. I had so many new styling clients in the US. My marketing has always been in English. I had my Instagram, and I suddenly had a client base of beautiful plus size women that never had anything really to wear or the opportunity to express themselves through fashion. And that my passion was even more sparked through that. What then also later happened, there were like a lot of media companies or media outlets, like let's say InStyle, Birdie, and so Today.com that were interviewing me about plus size and body positivity and about inclusivity. I got speaker engagements down the road, and now I'm also consulting for fashion brands because they also started knocking on my doors, and that's like what I'm doing now. Yeah.
That's amazing. Your story is just so inspiring. One of the interesting things for me is the way you frame the industry and just the positive lens you put on everything, because so much of the market is in the plus size world. And yet the fashion brand doesn't even represent that at all. And I'm just curious,
Yeah.
what were some of the biggest challenges you faced when starting out in fashion, and how did you overcome them? Because fashion is very traditionally focused on one segment of the market and tends to be very myopic with the actual consumer. And so I'm just wondering for you, is what challenges did you encounter early on, and what challenges do you continue to encounter in what you do?
Yes. Yeah, a lot of challenges, to be honest with you. So, on the one hand, we have the consumer part. So, it was very hard for me to find beautiful fashion, especially in high quality, for plus size women. And it's not only in Europe, like to be fair with you, even the US has the same problems. When I came to the US, honestly, I was thinking, okay, this is going to be amazing. There's so many, like there's 67% of women in the US are plus size. There must be clothing. And I was very much disappointed when I arrived here, and there was honestly not that much either, especially not in store. So obviously there are online shops that caters more or less to plus size women, but also that is not that great. So on the consumer part, the biggest challenges was really like, where do I even get beautiful premium kind of clothing or even luxury clothing? It's extremely limited in bigger sizes. Obviously, if you go down the road to fast fashion, there's enough, but that's not what I'm doing. And that's also not what my client wants either. So so the quality and also the fit part, there were a lot of brands, if you're looking to the fit of garments, that are literally just grading up in inches when they're creating clothing for bigger sized bodies. But that's literally not possible for bigger sized clothing. So if you have, for example, a size 2, you cannot just grade up to a 16 or to a 18. It doesn't work. You have to invest time and money into fitting these garments. That was a very big problem that I also encountered, and my clients too. But then also on the other part, when you go into the B2B part, it's really like closed doors of fashion brands telling me there is no consumer out there. There are no plus size women ever in our stores. Why should we cater to them? And also a lot of bias around plus size bodies and plus size consumer, from the one thing of plus size consumers are lazy and don't have money, which I can tell you is not true. The plus size industry is at the moment, I think, estimated over 300 billion US dollars, and it's 67% of all women in the US. So you cannot tell me there's no one, because my clients, they look for premium products and they just barely can get their hands into that. And by yourself, the fashion industry is really full of bias, not only of plus size women. There's a lot of things going on that just need to be shaked up a little bit. But then also on the other hand, which I never believed would be the case, I got welcomed with open arms. For example, in Paris, there's, for example, the Paris Haute Couture Fashion Week, which is like the most beautiful, the most luxurious thing to go to when you think about fashion. And that was a place where I was welcomed with open arms. And if you sit there also in Paris in your front row, for example, as a stylist, and other women sitting front row with literally the same body as I do, and I can tell you why. It's because if you have a bigger size body, the best way to dress her is really with premium, but also made to measure kind of clothing. So the bias of the consumer not having the money, I can tell you, if you're in Paris, it's not the case. So these were like places where I was thinking, wow, they are welcoming you with open hands. So it's very much a roller coaster in this industry.
That's just wild, the swings within the same industry.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to me that couture is embracing of the concept, but mainstream luxury is not. And I guess my question for you is then, how did you start to try to solve this problem in terms of this sort of behavior change, right? Because plus size fashion, as you noted, is already marginalized within mainstream fashion. How do you start to approach the problem of building awareness and to actually have real conversations about fit and sizing, which I'll get to in a minute, but really to get brands to understand the market opportunity for what you do?
Yeah. So the first thing I've always been doing is social media. Honestly, I'm doing my postings, I'm doing my content, maybe on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on TikTok. Is really like putting myself out there and speak about the biases, speak about the truth, speak about the market opportunities, and showcasing that what they think is the truth is not the case. And they have to learn by themselves too. And on the other hand, is really knocking on doors. It's like, listen to me, I have this case here. And there were like some really amazing companies also approaching me. What the challenge there was, especially like in marketplaces, they're asking for feedback, they're asking for consulting, they understand the problem. But then the board, for example, doesn't want to change anything because they don't believe in it, or they think, okay, it's not worth it for us to go down that road, or we are scaring away the regular and skinny size customers, not what we want to do. So this is like always the challenge that I have or had. And in the end, it's really like finding like-minded people in the industry who understand where you're coming from, understand what has to be changed, but also showing them the consumer samples, like showing them what the consumer's thinking, showing them the numbers, and then they start talking to you.
No, I love that. And I think there's so much change that needs to happen. And just to stay at a broad level, all of what you're mentioning is tapping into sort of this broader trend towards inclusivity and a need for fashion. I don't want to say be for everyone, but for fashion to know its consumers, right? To be for the people who are buying it. And I'm just curious, from your perspective, what does inclusivity mean to you, and how do you try to incorporate it into your styling work?
So inclusivity is something that is really difficult because it means something different to anybody else. Inclusivity per se, I would say, is celebrating but also accepting different kind of bodies, different kind of color, different kind of heritage, but also different kind of styles if you think about it. And I would not even say incorporating per se, but really like accepting, because I think the acceptance part, especially in the fashion industry, is not really there. And I think through this kind of acceptance, we could open so much more minds and so much more doors. And for fashion, I would really say is, inclusivity is feeling well and accepted in the body that you are currently in. May that be a skinny size body, may that be a plus size body, may that be a different kind of body shape, it doesn't matter. And I think inclusivity, like my main field is size inclusivity, but inclusivity in fashion should go down so many more roads. There's not only size, there's like genders, there's age, because also in fashion, there's so much ageism going on that has to be worked on. And so inclusivity means a lot of different things to a lot of people.
Exactly. I think what's so powerful in the concept that you have is that you're coming from a very real place of real consumers and what they're looking for. And I think luxury fashion is starting to wake up to this, but it's definitely a matter of needing a strategy to figure out how to approach that market. And I know you get into the weeds with brands in terms of sizing and product development and things like that. And so I'm curious about sort of the issue of sizing. It's frustrating and controversial for even anyone in any size body in general, but I'm interested for your take on what do you see the biggest issues with sizing in industry today and how you build a better future for plus size fashion.
So obviously, I'm a very honest person, and if I would say it's so easy to implement plus size into your strategy and into your business, then that would be a lie, because there has to happen a lot of steps in the background, from really getting the fit down to have people on board who understand different kind of fits and bigger size bodies. Because even if you go very back into fashion universities, if you become a designer, a lot of times this is something that's not being taught, not even in universities, how to create clothing and garments for bigger size bodies, because your sample size is literally a sample size 2 or 4. And that's like the first problem that we actually have. So actually we would definitely need to go to the universities first and start helping young emerging designers to be able to create and design clothing in bigger sized bodies. Then also production warehouses and the production facilities per se have to have the abilities also with their machines to produce bigger sized clothing. Maybe we even have to go down the road for more on the demand, because I understand also the challenge that the industry has in warehousing so many different kind of sizes. Like, I get it. And I also think there has to be better opportunities for brands to predict the sizing that's actually being sold. So not create, I don't know, a huge amount of SKUs in a size 10 if maybe main consumer has a 14. So things like this have to be balanced a little bit out. There has to be so much data that has to be looked at and incorporated into the business models. But it's something that can be worked on. Like, I know it's not the easiest part to do, but also talk to the consumer and have somebody on board who understands the consumer. What does she want? And ask them. Because nobody's ever asking the plus size consumer what she wants and where she's going to. So really incorporate like these kind of fields and start working on them and have like a very strong team on board who understands what they're doing. And just not only be in for the money, because that's the next thing. I've seen so many brands down the road, especially like in the past years, that said, okay, like we are size inclusive now. And then they only have like 2 sizes, maybe a 1X or maybe a 2X, if even. And they were trying to make a quick buck, but that's not really what's happening. You have to be in for the long game, but the long game is really not only interesting, but also profitable in the end.
No, I love that. And I think part of my interest in what you do comes in the innovation side, especially on the couture luxury fashion thing, because there seems like there's such an opportunity for more innovative design and kind of a new way of thinking about clothing on the human body, and as well as even new textiles, new fabrics. And so I'm just curious from your end, what is the current state of plus size fashion design in terms of the creativity side of things and even the fabric quality side of things, and where are the opportunities to, I think, improve there as well?
Yeah, there are huge opportunities to improve, because I really have seen also in the past couple of years, and also going through the wardrobe of my own personal styling clients, like it's insane. I have one really good example. A styling client of mine in London, she has a lot of plus size luxury clothing, and she was showing me a couple of pieces from one designer, like pieces from like 5 or 6 years ago. Impeccable quality, impeccable fit. Like, I was touching and feeling. I was like, okay, these are amazing garments. We have to keep them in your wardrobe. And then she said to Michaela, look at this. Those are like 3 pieces I've bought from them this year. And we really looked at both kind of different garments from 5 years ago and from today, and they're really not up in their game anymore. They don't have the same kind of quality. And if you are a premium or luxury brand, your selling point should really be the quality. So you cannot charge, let's say, thousands and thousands of US dollars or euros for garments and then really go down with the quality. If your quality is not there, honestly, just don't even sell. That's what I have to say. Don't even start selling, because I get mad too, and the consumer is getting mad. And if you made them mad once, they're not gonna come back. The one problem though that we have in plus size is there's not enough. There are not enough brands. There are not enough designers. So actually, these women, they still have to go back to these brands. But there are more small designers now emerging that have great quality, but they don't have the marketing. That's like a challenge that those smaller designers have. So if you mean it, and if you have really like the quality product, I can tell you, go out there, produce, make clothing, be vocal about it, show up, get your visibility, because the consumers will be waiting for you out there.
Can you dive a little bit deeper into talk about the sort of the choice issue here? Because I feel like you're saying that a lot of designers are doing plus size, but it's not, obviously it's not a focus, but there's just less to choose from in terms of the quality and variety that they have across the rest of fashion there. What does choice mean to you as part of that, for what you do?
So especially when it comes to design of clothing, I don't know where that comes from. And I wish if anybody listening to this podcast who can give me a rundown why that's happening. If you think about plus size fashion, what we are getting in terms of design is always the really big flower pattern. Sure, who doesn't like a nice flower pattern? But I don't need 50 of those pieces on my wardrobe. And especially, why are they always so big and oversized and cartoonish? If you make one, make like a beautiful one. So really get a little bit more creative, because there's more than flowers out there. There's more beautiful patterns, more beautiful fabrics that you can use. So get a little creative. I know plus size can be a challenge, especially the kind of fabrics that you're using. Some maybe should be a little bit stretchy. Some kind of designs maybe don't need to stretch because you have a really good silhouette already down with what you have created. But give a woman options, give her options, and don't only go for the big flower patterns, and don't only create clothing that's just a black color or in a dark navy. A beautiful burgundy color or an electric blue is something that we also want to have. So get more creative and create something that other brands maybe are not doing. Obviously, I understand from a design point that everybody and every designer has their own aesthetics and their own way to work, and that should also stay that kind of way. But get a little bit more creative and don't always play too safe. And if you need help, then ask her or get somebody on board who can help you with that.
I think that's so smart. And my other question for you is just in terms of, to dive a little bit more into sort of sizing. Right now, we're in this weird space where everything is either early 2000s kind of heroin chic stuff again, or these sort of hugely oversized silhouettes and all of this. And from my perspective, I'm buying up all the wide leg trousers while I can before they go away, because I've been waiting for my Katharine Hepburn moment for a while. But I think there's something in this sort of slight reattention to tailoring that we're in right now. And I'm just wondering how you feel about tailoring for the plus size market.
Oh, if a designer can do really good tailoring and draping, especially, oh my gosh, you become my favorite designer if you have that down, because it's so rare even nowadays. I don't know what's happening in the universities, or maybe that's a own choice, but it's really an art that's really being lost. And if you think about a plus size body, it's not something that you have to hide in oversized clothing at all. You can beautifully create clothing along the lines of the woman. She will look beautiful. And the same goes with draping. If I have a dress that's beautifully draped, this is my favorite piece in my own wardrobe. It's curve hugging. It's a little sexy, but not too much. And so really get designers, go back and really learn that kind of techniques again. It's so needed. And if you make a woman feel beautiful and in tailoring and in draping, she will come back. She will always come back. And especially the plus size consumer is so loyal. So get out there and get those drapings and tailoring going.
I was really moved by your post on the Skims and Dolce & Gabbana collab, because I think that sort of starts to show that door opening a little bit. How do you feel about that sort of potential for bridging gaps through collaborations and things like that? Do you view that as a nice way forward for the industry?
I'm a huge fan of collaborations. At the moment I saw the Skims and Dolce & Gabbana collab, I was all in for this. I always wanted to have a beautiful Dolce & Gabbana dress. The really the silhouette of what Dolce & Gabbana is doing is working so well for plus sized body and for curves. So, and I know the quality of skims is literally amazing. Also the fit, what they're doing. And I knew when I saw this collaboration, I knew this is going to work. And I personally also have to be upfront and first person to be online to get something out of this collection. And, after that, and I was very successful because, I was immediately there to buy. And I was posting online, and I had so many women, you have no idea, I had so many women reaching out to me and said, Michaela, I just saw your post. I didn't know they have a collab going on. I tried to get something and it's all sold out. And then they asked me, what did you get? And I had a couple of women, they were so sweet. They were on waiting lists for a couple of pieces. And then they asked me and said, okay, the waiting list, I just got an alert. They have restocked. There are a couple of dresses. Can you show me the fit? Can you show me the pictures again? Can you maybe even make a little video for me? Because we have the same kind of body shape and I don't know if I'm going to fit in this. So I know there was not enough garments anyway from the beginning for everybody, but also thinking about their own website and their own marketing in the end. Things like this to really help the consumer make an informed purchasing decision through showing it on different body shapes, giving a little bit more information on the garment. That would have been amazing. And even more stock, that would have been even better.
What are the opportunities for brands in learning about and reaching today's consumers through content, particularly for consumer bases like plus size, where they feel like they don't know their own consumer, even though they should? What types of things should they do? What has actually worked for you in building your own social media platforms through this?
So what's working for me is a little bit different than for a producing company, because I'm a personal brand and I love to put myself out there. And what I have also encountered, if it's not me who's showing up, my postings are not performing well. They're not reaching the people, I'm not interested. So if it's not a photo of me and if it's not a video of me speaking, people are not grabbed by it, even if I have a great message within my post. And I also encountered that people are very visual. So I always make sure to match my postings with some kind of video or photo content of me, even in the B2B part. And I was very surprised by that, because B2C makes absolutely sense. The consumer, she's always telling me I have to see how things are fitting and I need to see how you're looking, because then I can imagine it on myself. But even on the B2B part, and that's what I encountered a lot on LinkedIn at the moment, sometimes I was like, yeah, okay, I'm talking about something. I don't necessarily have to match the speech to myself or my message to myself. But anytime I did that and I was just posting, I don't know, a photo or video that was in that field, but not about myself, that did not perform in any kind of way. So I'm always making sure to show up by myself. It's hard because you need to create so much content, up front, but it's okay. I love talking to the industry. I love to give advice and I also enjoy it, but it can be very time consuming and obviously tiring, but that's what I signed up for. And that was my choice of a personal brand.
I admire so much of what you do because you're so upfront and honest about your own story. Was it difficult to start really being honest and sharing your own journey? I think women have a difficult time in owning our own story, but I think in being very forthright and authentic about the struggles we deal with. And it's always amazing when we have conversations between women, like, oh, I deal with this too. And, a lot of the men in our lives are always surprised at this. And I'm just wondering, from your angle, has it been like, how did you come to this place of really open sharing? Because it's so brave from my standpoint. Has it been a process to start figuring out to share your journey?
Yeah, at the beginning, it was really baby steps for me, because I had to feel the waters a little bit first, like what is really performing, what do people want to see? And it was also a battle with myself. That was like, how deep do I want to go and how open do I want to be with people? And I had times when I was creating content and I was, it's so crazy. I'm a woman. So I was sitting sometimes and I literally started crying creating the content, because it goes so deep and it's like sometimes really like traumatic, even what has been happening. And then I was clicking post and I was literally like putting my phone away because I was always on the edge to delete that post to not go out. And sometimes I was thinking, okay, this post is insane. like, oh my gosh, what are you putting out there? Or it's like, this is too much. But I was thinking it's not gonna perform well, because of why do people care about this? And I'm telling you one thing, the deeper I go, the better performance that I have. I'm not actually doing that just because of performance. But I have the feeling, sounds maybe a little bit too spiritual, but I have the feeling that the pain that I had to go through in my own life is something that I might have had to go through to help and inspire other women. And if it's taking that, then I'm all in for this, because I get so much beautiful feedback. And if I can change somebody's life through a post, and oh my gosh, I'm here for that.
I love that. It makes vulnerability so empowering. And I think it's something we're just not taught by society to embrace. So I admire your effervescence and your joy and all of that as well. Just the knowledge you bring to all of your posts is something that fashion really needs, but it just must be such a hard thing to come to that at sometimes, because you are very upfront with a lot of the biases you've encountered. So yeah, I really admire that. Just to go back to sizing a little bit, what are strategies brands can use to improve that transparency for consumers? Because size charts vary greatly across brands and for the most part are broken, and even new types of technology that supposedly help you gauge your size for a particular brand are either highly offensive, not very user-friendly, or just not very helpful. So I'm just curious from your end, are there any strategies and techniques that you've found that brands can use to start improving size charts and making sizing a little bit more transparent?
Yeah. So that's a very difficult topic, obviously. And did you know there are brands out there that have not even a size chart? And I'm still shocked by this sometimes. So if you don't even have a size chart, I don't know what you're doing as a brand in the first place. Like, I'm sorry about that. Yeah. It's like, I don't know where that comes from. But yeah, so that's like the very first, that's the baby step. If you don't even have a size chart, then I don't know. And make sure that your size chart is accurate. That's like the next problem. A lot of brands have size charts out there and they're literally not accurate in any kind of way. So get that also down. But besides the very classic things, it's really like fit technology. It's like get the consumer answering the fit questions and collaborate with these kind of fit technology companies. It's like the first thing we need to do. Some of them do a really amazing job. Some maybe a little less, maybe need a little bit more infos and data. But I also have to tell the consumer, you have to be a little bit patient, because from the business point of view and from the design and company point of view, I know it's not the easiest thing to really get the sizing down. So be a little bit patient and be also open to answer some questions, because just answering one or two questions with your height, it's not gonna cut it in the end. So yeah, be also as a consumer more forgiving for that too. But what can also help sometimes is show these different kind of body shapes in your product, so the consumer can already imagine and see herself in that shape. Because if you have a bigger bust, for example, and a model is there modeling with a very small bust, you have no idea if that's gonna fit or not, and it's probably not. And the other part you can also do, especially for your A clients, have some stylists maybe on retainer or work with a couple of stylists so they can help to make really informed purchasing decision, and really to bring that even to the next level. And I was such a big fan of that, is live shopping. So I know a lot of friends out there still don't know really about live shopping. And yes, it is like live shopping at QVC or something like this. But it's online now, and you can leverage so much of live shopping, because people can already through that live shopping feed buy your kind of clothing. And there's no better way to make informed decisions than really engage with that consumer on that personal level through these kind of live shopping experiences, and show them the garments, show them how they fit, talk about them. And because she cannot feel also the garments and the fabrics if she's online, like she has no idea. And live shopping is really a way to leverage sales, but also to reduce the returns, because the consumer will more or less know if there's a good fit or not. So this is a thing brands really have to think about in 2025 to put more effort into that.
That's fascinating. Well, we know live shopping is a big thing in China. And I think from the United States perspective, QVC has its own reputation on the other end. But I think TikTok is definitely starting to change that game. There's such a power in being able to see the garment on a person. Just to think a little bit deeper about styling, I'm wondering, for just aspiring stylists, what advice would you give them who really want to follow in your footsteps when it comes to plus size and inclusivity for their own work? What should they do to start on that career path, and things they should look out for?
Yes. So in the first place, you have to think about, why do I want to be inclusive? It's like, what is the reason? Do I want to be inclusive because I believe in it and I want to cater to all different kind of sizes and colors and this and that and genders? Or am I in because it seems like to be lucrative and that's the reason why I want to be in? And I'm saying this because especially when I became more visible through media and media outlets, I had a lot of not only designers, but especially stylists reaching out to me and told me they want to be in that field too and I want to learn that. But it seemed like a lot of them just wanted to make quick money. And that's not how you can see the consumer, because the consumer, especially the plus size consumer, has been seen as somebody to make quick money with, because she seems desperate. She doesn't have enough clothing and nothing fits. So we just go in there and then we solve a little problems and we are out there again. And that's not going to work. You really have to go deep. You have to understand not only the silhouettes and the shapes, but also the challenges that a plus size woman has with clothing. If she's sitting down, how do the clothing fit? And what kind of fabrics can you use? Do you really want to give her like alpaca wool? Or is she going to be a little bit too hot in that? Maybe cashmere and silk is a better way to go. There are like so many things you have to consider, and also consider the emotional part of clothing, because clothing, especially I think as a woman, I talk about myself here, maybe I'm projecting, but clothing for me is not only clothing. Like the clothing for me is like my armor that I wear every day. And there's so many different kind of situations and occasions that I'm going to, and then I'm choosing the kind of garment that fits like the perfect armor for me in that situation. Is it like a job interview she goes to? Is it a wedding that she's attending to? I think fashion, and also as a fashion stylist, you're more than just helping somebody find clothing. I think there's also like a deep psychological part on one hand, because you also have to be able to feel actually what the other person should wear and get some inspiration through her own personality and dress her personality, not only her silhouette. So yeah, there are like a lot of things you have to consider, I think, beforehand. But if you are down to all of this, then let's go. We are really get your certification, start to study styling and image consulting or fashion styling. And you can also train a little bit. You don't have to go full in with a full company. Now you can start helping other stylists who are more established. So you can test with your own family and friends. There are like a lot of ways, but don't get disencouraged, but also always think about why you are in, for what kind of reasons, and then go ahead with that.
Just as a final note, you mentioned earlier this sort of one way to achieve a happier place for fashion is to embrace things like on-demand production and things like this, which, because I deal with luxury brands on a daily basis, maybe think a lot about sort of the role of bespoke and made to measure, particularly for high net worth and ultra high net worth women. And I'm just wondering, what is your take on that opportunity for brands?
I personally, like from a consumer point of view, I love it, because especially thinking about a bigger size body, you always have some kind of fit issues. Everything that comes just from the rack. Everything that comes from the rack will never fit like 1,000,000%. Also thinking about my own clothing and also the clothing of personal styling clients is we always if something comes off the rack, we have to give it to a tailor in the end. And if you have somebody making on demand or made to measure clothing for you, you have the perfect fit, because it is made for your body, for your inches, for your centimeters. And you also have a lot of possibilities to alter these kind of clothing, especially if you're working with a couture house. Oh my gosh, they have so many possibilities for you to change necklines, to change lengths, to change fabrics, colors. It's so much fun in the end. And also the quality. You have to think about the quality. If something is really made for you, and it's maybe even haute couture or made to measure, it's just different. Like the moment you feel these kind of clothing on your body, you honestly never want to wear anything else. And for fashion brands, thinking about how you can cater better to a consumer is really like to make it. And then we also have the sustainability part in the end, because you can plan better your productions, you can plan better the kind of fabrics and the tools you need. And in the end, we don't throw that much clothing away. So the sustainability part on that is like really big. And I think this should be considered way more of fashion brands.
That's amazing. And it's true. I think obviously making less is better for the future. And then if you get couture to go with it, well, that's awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And just to close, what changes would you like to see within fashion over the next decade in terms of both creative design, but also kind of representation for the plus size market?
Yes. So designs and production, honestly, I have to say less is more. And I don't mean using less fabric for making clothing. I really say produce less clothing, but make them better, give a better kind of quality, and really dive into the needs and the wants into a consumer and become better with like predictions. That would be great if we could solve that, if we could solve the issue of overproduction, if we could solve the issue of producing clothes that nobody wants and nobody really fits into, because that doesn't make sense in the end, not for a brand and not for the sustainability part, not for the consumer. And I would love if size inclusivity, for example, is not something that we have to advocate for anymore, if it's just normal. If we can go into a store and we find the pieces in every size. If the consumer can go with a friend, with her mother, with her sister, who cares? Go with her together. And it's not the person that has to stand in front of has to stand in the shop just with a pair of earrings or with a purse just to wait for her friends after 2 or 3 hours to be done with shopping. So if we can give her what she really wants to wear and where she looks great into that, but make it in a way that we don't have to address it anymore, where it's just like the normality, where size inclusivity is normal, that would be so beautiful, especially for future generations to come.
So where can people find you online if they want to come see your work?
Yes. So obviously I have my website. You can look a little bit into my work, which is confidence-style.com. You will find me on LinkedIn. I'm very passionate about LinkedIn at the moment. I love playing around with content there. You will find me under my name, Michaela Leitz-Aslaksen. Maybe we can put that in the show note because my name is a little bit hard to write and all that. Totally. And obviously, I'm still going very strong on Instagram. It was my first love that I had with social media. So you will find me there as About Michaela. And yeah, I'm always happy to chat and to make a change in the fashion industry.
Thank you so much, Michaela. You are always a delight.
Thank you so much for having me here today.
Thank you for joining us for another great discussion as part of FSW Conversations. For deeper analysis and insights, please visit Fashion Strategy Weekly at fashionstrategyweekly.com, a media publication of strategy agency It's a Working Title. For questions, comments, and concerns, please reach out to our media team at info@itsworkingtitle.com. This podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all of your favorite podcasting platforms.